Good night. This is Fumi Sleepy Time Stories. Tonight's bedtime story is about to begin.
Once upon a time, there was a young man named Hans who had worked for his master faithfully for 7 whole years. One day, Hans went to his master and said, "Sir, my time here is done. I'd like to return home and visit my mother. Please give me the wages I've earned." His master replied kindly, "You've served well and faithfully. As a reward, I will give you a handsome payment." And with that, he handed Hans a piece of gold, so large and heavy it was as big as Hans's own head. Hans wrapped the shining gold in a cloth, hoisted it onto his shoulder, and began his journey home. But the further he walked, the heavier the gold became. With every step, he grew more tired, his shoulders aching, and his back bent under the weight. As he trudged along, a fine-looking rider came galloping down the road on a sleek, proud horse. Hans watched in awe. "Oh, how grand it must be to ride like that," he exclaimed. "He sits so easily, like he's on a chair at home gliding along the road without a care, no stones to trip over, no shoes wearing thin. I bet he's already traveled a great distance and barely feels it." The rider pulled his horse to a stop and called out, "Hey there, Hans! Why are you walking instead of riding?" Hans sighed. "Oh, if only I could. I'm carrying this lump of gold. It's my wages, but it's so heavy I can barely lift my head." The rider's eyes twinkled. "Tell you what, why don't we trade? I'll give you my horse and you give me that gold." Hans's eyes lit up. "That sounds wonderful, but I must warn you, the gold is awfully heavy." The rider laughed, helped Hans up onto the horse, and handed him the reins. "If you want to go faster," he said, "just cluck your tongue and shout, 'Giddy up! Giddy up!'" Hans rode off, proud and pleased, enjoying the breeze and the gentle clip-clop of hooves. But after a while he grew impatient. "Let's go faster," he said, clicking his tongue. "Giddy up, giddy up." The horse burst into a gallop. Before Hans could hold on tight, he tumbled off, thump, and landed in a muddy ditch beside the road. Just then, a kindly farmer came by, leading a gentle cow. He rushed over and caught the runaway horse before it disappeared. Hans groaned and crawled out of the ditch, rubbing his sore neck. "That horse is too wild for me," he grumbled. "One jump and I go flying. But your cow, now that's a calm, useful animal. She walks so slowly, gives milk every day, and you can make butter and cheese too. If only I had a cow like that." The farmer smiled. "Well then, let's trade. You give me the horse, and I'll give you the cow." Hans agreed at once. "Yes, please." And so, the farmer climbed onto the horse and rode away, while Hans continued on his way, happily leading the cow. As he walked, Hans smiled to himself. "What a lucky fellow I am," he said. "With this cow I'll never go hungry again. Milk for drinking, butter for spreading, cheese for snacking. Life is good." Soon, he came upon a small inn and decided to take a break. He happily ate all the bread he had brought and spent his last few coins on a nice glass of beer. Then, feeling cheerful and refreshed, he set off again toward his mother's village. By midday the sun grew hot, and Hans felt parched. "No matter, he thought. I've got my cow. I'll just drink some fresh milk. He tied the cow to a tree, took off his leather cap to use as a cup, and tried to milk her. But no milk came out. Hans didn't know how to milk properly, and he only made the poor cow angry. With a swift kick, wham! The cow knocked Hans right on the head and sent him tumbling to the ground, dazed and dizzy. Luckily, a butcher happened to be passing by with a cart and a plump little pig. He rushed to help Hans up. "What happened to you?" he asked. Hans told him the whole tale, and the butcher offered him a swig of wine. "That cow of yours," he said, shaking his head, "is no good. She's old and dry, only fit for the slaughterhouse." "Oh no," said Hans. "What good is that to me? I don't even like beef. If only I had a pig instead. Now that would be useful. Juicy pork, tasty sausages." "Well, lucky for you," said the butcher. "I've got just the thing. Let's swap. You give me your cow, and I'll give you this pig." Hans clapped his hands with joy. "Thank you. May heaven bless you for your kindness." And with that, he took the pig and happily continued on his way. Hans strolled along, leading his pig by a string, feeling pleased with his day. "Things always work out for me," he thought. "Whenever something goes wrong, something even better comes along." Soon, he met a country lad carrying a plump white goose. The lad stopped to ask Hans what time it was, and Hans, delighted to chat, told him all about his day: the gold, the horse, the cow, the pig. The country lad nodded. "This goose is for a christening," he said, handing it to Hans. "Feel how heavy she is. She's only 8 weeks old, but she's fat and full of good goose fat. Roast her and you'll have a feast." Hans admired the goose. "She really is fine. But my pig's no slouch either." The lad looked around and leaned in. "My friend, I've just come from a village where a squire's pig was stolen. I hate to say it, but your pig looks exactly like the one that's missing. If you pass through that village, they might think you're the thief." Poor Hans turned pale. "Oh dear, please help me avoid this terrible trouble. You know the area better. Would you take the pig and give me your goose instead?" The lad nodded solemnly. "For your sake, I will. Better safe than sorry." They traded quickly, and the lad vanished down a side path with the pig, while Hans, now with the goose tucked under his arm, walked on with a lighter heart. He smiled as he went. That was a lucky escape. A goose is even better. I'll roast her for dinner, and her fat will last for months. Her soft feathers will make a lovely pillow. Mother will be so happy. As he passed the last village before home, Hans saw a man sharpening knives on a grinding wheel. The man sang cheerfully, "Through hills and valleys I gladly roam. My work is light, the world's my home. With every blade that I make new, my pockets jingle with coins. It's true." Hans stopped and watched. "You seem so happy. Your work must be full of joy." "Indeed," said the grinder. "A skilled knife sharpener is never poor. I can always reach into my pocket and find money. Say, where did you get that fine goose?" Hans told him the whole story, from the pig, the cow, the horse, the gold, and his 7 years of work. The grinder laughed. "You've done well, but imagine if you could earn coins every day like me. All you need is a good grindstone." Hans's eyes sparkled. "That sounds amazing. How can I become a grinder like you?" "I have a fine stone right here," said the man. "It's worn a bit, but still worth as much as your goose. Shall we trade?" "Of course," said Hans. "If I can earn money whenever I please, I'll be the happiest man in the world." He handed over the goose and received a heavy grinding stone in return. Carrying the stone, Hans walked on with joy. "What a lucky life I lead," he said. "Every wish comes true." But soon he grew tired. His stomach rumbled, his shoulders ached, and that heavy stone seemed to get heavier by the minute. Finally, he came to a quiet pond and decided to rest. He gently placed the stone on the edge of the water, knelt to drink, and accidentally knocked the stone into the pond. Plop! Down it sank, out of sight. Hans jumped to his feet, overjoyed. "Thank heavens! I've lost that heavy burden." He knelt, eyes sparkling with tears of relief. "Dear God, thank you for freeing me once more." Feeling lighter than ever, Hans danced down the road, carefree, cheerful, and full of joy, until at last he reached his dear mother's home, and from that day on, Hans was always known as Lucky Hans.